How do you price your work? That's a question I get asked all the time, especially by beginner artists. I was asked by Artistic Thought by Alina specifically about a commission that she's doing. She got a piece that someone loved, but they want it bigger. So she doesn't know how to do the pricing for it. So sometimes I get stumped, honestly, about how to answer pricing questions. So I thought, how am I approaching my own YouTube channel? How would I approach this question? How do I approach it in my mentoring group that I have? I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna put the camera on. I'm gonna be real. I'm gonna tell you stories, and I'm gonna tell you all the little tips that I have. I even made some notes. Pricing is one of the hardest things. And the first thing you need to know is the level of your own experience. So Alina called me famous, which was, oh, that's nice, but I'm not famous, but I am experienced. So I am in several galleries across the country. I've worked for many years to get my pricing to a point where I'm comfortable with it. So let's start telling that story. The first thing you need to do is compare yourself to others. Now, I know that sounds, we've always taught our kids not to compare. We've always thought we shouldn't compare ourselves. We don't need to compare our art or our style necessarily, but you do need to compare your level of experience, the type of paintings that you do to others to find where in the market you fit. So I used to always say, go to as many shows, take a year and go to as many shows as possible. So that advice goes for when you're trying to get into starting to sell your work as well. Go to shows that seem to carry work, that seem to curate work in like yourself, because your customers are going to be at that show. If you are a realist painter and you apply for an abstract show and they let you in for some reason, but the people that are coming to that show are abstract buyers, they're gonna be like, what are you doing here? So go to the shows, find out which shows kind of suit you. Find artists that are at the same level as you. If you're looking on Instagram, per se, you might even look at the amount of followers they have to see if they're comparable to you, to see if their skill levels match yours, if they're better than you, if they're worse than you, if their compositions are great, or if they do seem very much like a beginner, or where yours fit in there. Okay, so that's your first step. Compare. And then you have to understand that there is a value to paintings and how much someone is willing to pay. That's actually a little bit different than what the pricing is. So there could be across the board for your level of experience a value that someone is willing to pay for a painting. And let's just use a 12 by 12 painting, because I have a lot of experience with 12 by 12s, as a price point. So there's a value that you get to where people will spend $100, $200, $300, and you need to find where your 12 by 12 fits in with others to see where it is. Now, pricing, you could price that 12 by 12 really, really high, and then you'll get no sales. But you could price it too low and you'll get a lot of sales. You need to find that right price, that value. So here's where I thought I would just tell you my story and how I started doing shows and how I started doing pricing. I started by doing the thing that I said. I went to lots of different shows and I found mostly outdoor shows. I found the outdoor shows at the beginning were the most economical to pay for. I needed to buy a tent and all those things, but I would set up at those shows and I had brought a pile of 12 by 12 paintings. And years ago, I would say 15, 20 years ago, I would sell my paintings for $50 a painting. So guess what happened? I sold out. I would sell out at a show. And I thought, oh my goodness, I brought 10 12 by 12 paintings. I made $500. This is wonderful, but they sold too fast. So I knew enough, I had enough business acumen to say that was fast. People apparently like what I'm doing. So the approval rating, was there. I got the validation that they did like my work. Apparently I had found a style. I had come across something that people were liking. And, I love a good praise. So, I respond to that. So encouragement is wonderful. And I just kept painting like that. So people loved them. So I sold out 10 paintings. Next show, I thought, okay, let's test it. And I had a whole year of going to all these different summer shows and fall shows. So I put the price up to $75, still sold out. Put the price up to $100, still sold out. So I'm like, okay, so I can sell a 12 by 12 for $100. They sell very well. Let's try, and I got bold. Let's try doubling it. So I put my price up to $200. The next show I sold, if I had 10, I probably sold 5. But think about that. I sold 5 for $200. That's $1,000 versus 10 for $50. 10 for $50 is $500. 5 at $200 is $1,000. I had 5 left over for the next show, and I had made double the money. So that was fantastic. It was a revelation of painting a little less, not killing myself in the studio, selling for a little more, and being able to enjoy that kind of income. So I thought, okay, this is great. What if I put my price up to $300? Now, $300, they still sold consistently at $300 at the shows that I was going to. So I think I had found at the shows, at the level of experience that I had at the time, the sweet spot. The sweetest spot for me at that level about 15 years ago was the 200 to 250 range. I knew that if I brought pieces between 2 and 250, I could sell them. It would be consistent sales. And that was wonderful. So that's what I mean by setting your price. If you set it too low, you're going to sell like crazy. You're going to exhaust yourself. But you need to increase and see where the value is. See where people will pay, and increase incrementally. You might do a show where you just totally, overprice your work, and you'll walk away and you'll go, okay, I made a mistake there. The hardest thing is going back. The hardest thing is reducing your rate. It's not something you really want to do. So go up in increments until you find that sweet spot where you're painting. You have to balance your life. You have to not be painting until 3 a.m. every morning, unless you like painting at 3 a.m. But you know what I mean. You have to balance and get your paintings to the point where it's a sweet spot. I also call 12 by 12 paintings grocery money paintings. I love the concept that you can create something that is so affordable that people buy them consistently, that you can become a full-time artist off of those pieces and pay for your groceries. This makes sense to me. If you work at a job and you make $1,000 a week at your job, but you really want to be an artist, why not come up with something that people will love, that you sell easily, put it at that right price point, that right value, and do the shows. You have to go and you have to promote yourself and you have to do the shows. But if you could backtrack this and say, I'm going to do 5 shows this summer, I will sell 10 12 by 12s at each show for $200. That's $2,000. You've kind of consistently, I'm not just making those up in the air. I'm saying that by now, when you're making that decision, you've had that experience. You've done a year or two on the show market. You've spent your weekends at the shows, and you know that you can sell about $2,000 at a show. So if you knew you had 4 shows that summer and you could make $8,000 to $10,000, I'm not including any of the bigger pieces that you've got at that show, maybe you could afford to take a month off in the summer and simply paint. Maybe you could say, let me find more shows that I can do, throughout the year. Maybe you go south. This becomes a very exciting venture where you know that you've got something that you can sell, and you could replace your income and become a full-time artist. So, consistency. Once you get to that point where your pricing is you've got the right price point, the value is there, people are buying, your product is good, your paintings are wonderful, you've mastered your skills, you need to be consistent. So this is where I first thought, so this is getting into galleries versus doing your own shows. When you do your own show, you get 100% of that money minus all your fees to do the shows, to do the setup, the tents, etc. When you are in galleries, however, you get on average 50% of that price. So that sounds like a really big ouch. I remember thinking, why would I go in a gallery? Why would I do that? I would sell, then I would sell a $200 12 by 12 for $100. That didn't make sense, except that I'm a family person. I have 5 children who now are all married, and there's 8 grandchildren already. And weekends are when they're all available, and weekends are when I would like to be with them. The first time I got asked to be in a gallery, I was very, very excited. I went to the gallery to see, do I fit? Obviously I did, because I went in and I loved almost all of the artists that gallery carried. So I knew I was in the club. I was in the right place. I wasn't that realist painter in an abstract gallery. And I thought, oh, they're going to take 50%. Some people are tempted, some artists are tempted that if it's a painting that's going to a gallery, if it's a $5,000 painting, this right here is a $5,000 painting. Oh, I'm going to charge $8,000 to the gallery, so I'll make for it. That is not a good thing to do. You need to be consistent. You need to have that $5,000 painting be $5,000 in your studio and $5,000 at the gallery, even though you get 50% less. You cannot undercut a gallery, because those galleries are working hard for you. Those galleries have people coming through and seeing your work that you would never do. The first time I did not do a big show that I had consistently done, I just was too tired. I couldn't do it. I actually went away, or I think that's what it was. I either couldn't do the show or I was too tired. So either one. I couldn't do the show. I had gone away for the weekend. We had plans, and I came home to a check in the mail from a gallery that had sold a couple of pieces. And I went, oh, I did not have to stand in a booth for 12 hours for 3 days. I did not have to do anything except go and enjoy my family, my husband, and a weekend away. This was marvelous. That is the goal eventually, and that is why gallery sales are great. And you can choose to do that, or you can choose not. That's a whole nother thing, but do not undercut your gallery. A client should never be able to come to your studio and find a painting for less than what they get at the gallery. So let's go back to those 12 by 12s. At this point, my 12 by 12s are $600. I've gotten to the point where they're $600 unless you can snag them through Square Foot Show, where they're $350 on a Square Foot Show. And I'll leave the links below to the Square Foot shows that I put on. They're $600. They sell consistently. I am a large painter, so painting small isn't really my most favorite thing to do. So I find at $600 they sell consistently, 1 or 2 a month. Quite happy with that. And there you go. I did want to add one thing, that you can price your work by the square inch, which is what I do. I tend to have, I measure, the width times length, and I get how many square inches, and I have a price point that goes with that. So if you were, say, at let's say it's 144 inches square, which is a 12 by 12, and you price at $1 a square inch, that painting is going to be $144. So that's very simple math. So if you needed to get that painting to $300, you're somewhere around $2 a square inch. Okay, I hope that helps. It all kind of breaks down a little bit, because sometimes when I'm painting a smaller painting, at this point, that would mean that my 12 by 12s are about $4 or $4.50 a square inch. And when I get a little bit larger, I'm now at about $3.5 a square inch. So you can price per square inch. Some people price linear with a linear formula. I don't know how that works. I can't answer that. But I thought I would pop this in and give you that final little information, because I forgot to talk about that you could price by square inch or by square foot, which is what I used to do. Hope that helps. I hope I've answered some questions. If there's any big glaring question that I did not answer, leave a comment below. Like and subscribe. And pricing your work is hard. Pricing your work is a little confusing, but I think I've given you some tips that you can use. So we'll see you in the next video. Please ask questions. It's great. It's great for me because I can come up with some content for you. See you in the next video.